This video is proudly sponsored by Gamersgate. Download games anytime, anywhere. Visit Gamersgate.com.
Welcome to Elder Geeks, Elder Speaks. Today is Thursday, June 14th, 2012. My name is Randy Yasenchak. I'm the editor of ElderGeek.com. Not going to have anybody on the show with me today. Going to be flying solo again. Going to touch on a little bit of a news segment, and I actually got a really fantastic question from a user the other day, so I'm actually going to toss that out there for everybody to kind of give their 2 cents on. I'm actually interested to hear what everybody else has to say, because on this particular topic, I'm pretty opinionated. And I'm not saying that I'm right, because it's just a stupid opinion that I have. But I don't know, maybe some of you actually agree with me, maybe some of you don't. And I think that's what kind of makes the ElderGeek.com audience so kind of awesome. The fact that we all speak about these topics and we don't instantly bash each other about it. So thanks everybody for being such an awesome audience. I don't think I've said that enough, and I don't think I do say that enough. But let's actually go through the news first. In the background today, you're going to be seeing more gameplay footage from Krater, which is an action RPG game from Fat Shark, and I'm loving this game to pieces so far. It's simple, it's really cheap. It harkens back to the old days of Baldur's Gate, which is awesome. And I'm playing it right now on hardcore mode, so if you see me die, and I actually have killed off one of my characters, that death is actually a permadeath, and you need to go back and recruit a new character to take their place. Luckily, it's not that hard to recruit a new person. You actually just go to a recruiting station, and if you have the money, you can actually just, you know, buy a new person to come back onto your crew, but good members are very expensive. But anyway, let's actually go into some news before we get to the question of the day. And like I said, I'd love to hear what everybody has to say. Blizzard right now is actually facing a class action lawsuit in Korea over Diablo 3, according to an article from Forbes. Now, the odd thing about this is it's not from a bunch of users that are actually kind of coming forward and trying to sue Blizzard. It's actually an internet cafe. So this internet cafe is trying to represent a whole group of its gamers that are actually coming to the internet cafe and who are, you know, trying to play Diablo 3, but of course can't play because of connection errors, server errors, etc., etc. Internet cafes aren't big here in the United States, so to be honest with you, I don't know exactly how they work over in Korea. A standard internet cafe over here, you know, for the most part, is you just pay for your time of you know, of their Wi-Fi connection. But it sounds like their internet cafes over there are more along the lines of, oh, and by the way, if we do have any Korean listeners out there, or anybody who actually has been to, you know, more Korean internet cafes, please chime in and let me know how they work if I'm not getting this correctly. But it sounds to me like they're like big gaming centers almost, and people go and they go to kind of hang out and you know, pay for their time while they're there, and they can play games that are actually installed on the PCs, which is actually kind of a cool concept, because it's, I don't know, it's kind of like replacing arcades almost. You go and there's a bunch of people there who are like-minded, and you really don't even need to worry about the hardware running the software, because you know it can run it and you don't have to pay for it yourself. So I can see how that business model actually makes a ton of sense. But a class action lawsuit against Blizzard seems like a little bit over the top to me. I mean, I get it, they're having server issues, but I mean, if the program doesn't work, then don't buy it, don't play it. It sucks that people have paid for it and they're getting a shoddy product. In that regard, I feel like people should be getting their money back. But to have a class action lawsuit seems like it's a little bit of an overreaction to me. Of course, one big thing that would really help Blizzard in this entire case would be if, you know, and this is kind of a no-brainer, just remove the online necessity to play the game in a single-player mode. That just kills me. That blows my mind that they require a constant internet connection for it. But it's becoming more and more popular and more the norm. So I'm slowly getting used to the idea of having a constant internet connection to play a game, but I'm not liking the idea. And if you're going to demand that kind of thing, then for the love of God, you really need to make sure that your servers are up to the task. And come on, this is Blizzard. They've been running World of Warcraft successfully for years now. They should know exactly what it takes to run good servers for these kinds of things. So that's my 2 cents on the topic. Is the class action lawsuit going to go through? I don't know. Don't know enough about Korean law, I suppose, but like I said, it seems like a little bit of an overreaction to me. And I really, really pray that Blizzard drops the online connectivity to play the single-player version of the game. But moving on, there's a Thief 4 30-second trailer that was actually leaked, which is kind of funny because I was actually talking about Thief 4 yesterday. The Thief 4 trailer, I got to admit, doesn't look super hot. I don't know. It's actually been found and pulled off of somebody's resume, and it looks okay. Again, here's a trailer that for a game as anticipated as Thief 4 is and is going to be, you would think that you would see something just mind-blowing. But, I don't know, it's just showing off basic stealthy kind of gameplay. I'll throw up a link to the video so you can actually go and check it out if you want to. It's about 30 seconds long. Like I said, don't expect to have your mind blown. It is something, but after this much time, but you know, since the last Thief game, I don't know, you'd almost expect to see fan trailers as good or better than what is seen in this. But in a little bit of final bit of news before I actually move into the topic, and I like this one a lot. This is kind of odd coming from Peter Molyneux, but apparently Peter Molyneux has been coming forward and saying that, and I'm summarizing, that there's a moral issue between games and then asking for microtransactions. Now he says that there's a moral issue to it because you're getting somebody addicted to a game and then you're asking for more and more money as you kind of go along. I agree with that, but I'm also of the standpoint that they're just games. And as much as I love gaming and as much as I play games, which is a lot, you know, I honestly probably play more games than anybody I know, period, hands down, without a question. But I don't think that video games are addictive. I don't. I love games to death, and I think there are some games that have addictive traits, and there are games that when I put them down, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't wait until I can play that again. And then, you know, I'll even get cranky sometimes if I'll think to myself, God, I really want to play that game, and I'm not playing it right now. But that's not a real addiction. You know, addiction is completely different. So people could actually argue about how it shows the same traits as a chemical addiction, but it's not the same. Anyway, but he actually goes on it, and he brings up some good points. He basically talks about how some games are almost retrofitted with these microtransactions to kind of make them playable. And he makes a really good point. That kind of thing, it doesn't really fit well. And so he talks about how we're going through these learning phases of gaming and how we're basically trying to find the right balance. And he brings up Draw Something, and about how his son had accidentally purchased, you know, a whole bunch of coins on the game. Now, my wife and I will play Draw Something from time to time, but we've never paid for coins because we don't need to buy extra colors or anything like that. But my personal big issue was actually I've been playing a lot of Bejeweled Blitz on my phone, which sounds really silly, but Bejeweled for years was free. And the fact that Bejeweled Blitz is actually free as well, but they're asking money of you to, you know, to buy extra special moves and all this other kind of stuff. And that just seems like it seems cheap and a little bit dishonest to me. You know, this game that they've been offering for free for years, and then suddenly they're like, oh, hey, here's a dumbed down version of that game that you were playing, and you have to pay a little bit extra to kind of get more out of your experience. For something like Bejeweled, and this is kind of going off a little bit on a tangent, you would think that maybe you would have to pay $2, $5 at most, to play the game constantly and as much as you want to. But I don't know. That's me. I'm not a big fan of microtransactions. In fact, I think they suck. I think that we took the concept of an expansion pack and we whittled it down to almost no content, but still a pretty hefty price for what you actually pay for. So, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of microtransactions. I much prefer if there's like a microtransaction for... I don't know. There's a balance, I suppose, I should say. And I think that if you can play the game without microtransactions and actually having a good time, then great. Or if you have a game that actually has microtransactions, and say you actually offered a pack that unlocked everything for a reasonable price, like, oh, say $50 or $60, I think you should offer that. But if you want to do like a microtransaction game, then make it free for everybody, and then, you know, make microtransactions kind of add up. But if they want to unlock everything, give them a flat rate. You know, that to me seems like the logical thing to do. Not a lot of games do that. There are some out there that do, but not a lot, not enough. But that's really that. Hats off to Peter Molyneux. Peter Molyneux, of all people, who normally just spouts the random crazy, you know, coming forth with wisdom here from atop the mountain. So, thank you, Peter Molyneux. But now that we're actually done with the news, let's actually change gears a little bit here and head over to the letter that I actually got yesterday. And I would love to hear all of your 2 cents on this and your take on this, because, like I said, I'm pretty opinionated on this. And I don't want to say I'm wrong. I feel like I'm right, but not everybody is actually going to be agreeing with me. So Sean writes, and I'm not going to use his last name, but Sean writes, "Dear Randy Yasenchak," which, by the way, I love the fact that he used my last name. Could have done Dear Mr. Yasenchak or Dear Randy. Either one would have been fine, but Dear Randy Yasenchak. I saw these 2 articles, one video and one written, by Tom McShea, and he basically gets on his soapbox, gives his grievances about the state of modern shooters, mainly military first-person shooter games that are marketed as realistic and authentic experiences. He basically argues that regenerating health and giving players the ability to take multiple rounds without any consequences negates any intent of the game being realistic. He also argues that the instant respawns and reloads at previous checkpoints takes the gravity out of dying. I honestly feel like McShea is not a fan of shooters, and I feel like he does not understand them. I do not view these types of games as disrespectful to soldiers, and what bugs me about these articles is that he's forgetting that video games are entertainment first and foremost. If they were designed to be realistic, they would not be entertaining. Games like Arma and America's Army are simulators that do give a seriousness to their subject matter by limiting the amount of damage a player can take in terms of military online. They give the players 1 life in certain online games, like, I'm trying to think of a game that we actually just reviewed recently. Mountain Blade Napoleonic Wars. You only get one life per round. I like that kind of thing. But anyway, continuing on. But these games are not big sellers and cater to a fringe group of first-person shooter fans that do prefer a slower and more realistic experience, as opposed to the fast-paced Twitch fest that Call of Duty has made famous and subsequently turned into a cash cow style of gaming. I agree that the marketing strategies are a load of crap, but most people understand that and do not buy these games with the expectation of a realistic experience. I'm curious to your thoughts on the articles, McShea's views, and the gaming industry strategy when it comes to marketing. But most importantly, I would like to throw in your thoughts on the current state of first and third person shooters. Where are they heading? What could some future innovations that could help revitalize the stagnating genres? Sincerely, Sean. And of course, I'm going to leave Sean's last name out of it. And I'll also link the articles that Sean's actually referring to. And you're right, he does. It seems that Tom McShea is overreacting a little bit in these articles when it comes to shooters. The last time I think that a game was really done, or a shooter was really done as an homage to soldiers, was probably the original Call of Duty. And you can actually see this if you go back and watch the Call of Duty retrospective series that we started, and then of course we didn't finish, which of course I'm sorry for, but we just got kind of tired of Call of Duty for the most part. But if you actually look at the big differences between the original Call of Duty and Call of Duty 2, they're huge. The original Call of Duty, it focused a little bit on the HBO series Band of Brothers. It took the events that those soldiers actually lived through, but it actually put them into a realistic setting. It actually put them on their maps. You know, Pegasus Bridge was actually Pegasus Bridge. Like that is exactly how that map is actually laid out. A lot of those scenarios happened, you know, and it was almost an homage to the people that actually fought in World War II, and it felt that way throughout the entire thing. Call of Duty 2 still felt like an homage, but a lot of the stuff they actually started to throw historical accuracy out the window to create a little bit more of a cinematic experience. Nothing wrong with that. Totally entertaining in terms of a video game, and it was fun. The big difference, of course, between, you know, gameplay-wise between Call of Duty 1 and 2 was the fact that regenerating health was brought to the Call of Duty series, and it's been there ever since. You know, a lot of people actually argue that regenerating health is one of the big downfalls to the shooter genre, but I kind of take it or leave it. Some games do pretty well with regenerating health, and some don't. The recent Max Payne 3, which I actually just got done doing the first person or the single player campaign for it, and I'm gonna be doing the video review for that hopefully sometime soon. The single player version of that does not have regenerating health, and it's actually pretty nice. You have to do it based on pain meds, and I really enjoyed that. No regenerating health, totally fun, provided a challenge that wasn't ridiculous, but still created a very good cinematic experience. Some other shooters where you just kind of regenerate health, I don't know. I'm starting to lose faith in the regenerating health, I guess. But this is actually where I'm going to go on to my little personal soapbox for a bit here. I'm finding it harder and harder when I'm reviewing games for the site, and actually when I do these video reviews for everyone, I'm finding it harder and harder, no matter how good a shooter is, I'm finding it harder and harder to recommend shooters at full price. Because from one to the next, they don't feel that much different at all, aside from aesthetics. And maybe occasionally you'll get some kind of cool, different effect. Max Payne obviously has, the bullet time events in it as well, but so does Fear now. And of course, one's a first-person shooter, the other one's third-person shooter. But I don't know. They they lack originality from one to the next, and I think that's. I think that's probably the biggest thing with shooters right now is they just people who are making shooters are just creating a corridor or creating an area, throwing in bad guys, giving you guns, telling you to go from point A to B. Good luck. And there's not much thought to that. I think that there can be a lot more done with shooters. I think we need to start looking at shooters and mixing them a little bit better with open world games like Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption and even Fallout. Fallout New Vegas got closer to having a realistic shooter in a open world environment, but I think that if we were to do that, it would be a big help for the first person shooter genre. Far Cry was getting there. The original Far Cry. Nice big open environments. You can go where you wanted to go. You could attack your enemies how you wanted to attack them and when you wanted to attack them. And it still provided a really cinematic experience towards the end. But unfortunately, the original Far Cry was only on the PC. Later on, it was ported over to consoles. But because of that, Crytek made this huge argument about how PC players were all pirates, etc., and a bajillion people pirated both Far Cry or Crysis 1 and Crysis 2. I hope I haven't been saying Far Cry this whole time. But Crysis 1 was going in the right direction, and I think that kind of mentality is where shooters need to go. Because right now, here you have a gun, go down the corridor and kill guys, that's wearing thin on me. It really is. Am I offended by shooters who claim that they're realistic, but they're actually not? No, not at all. I think that no matter where you go or no matter what form of entertainment you do, you're always going to have a level of authenticity and then entertainment. So authenticity and entertainment are always kind of fighting one another for which is going to be the heavier of the two proportions. In video games, obviously entertainment is going to be the heavier side of the balance. I personally really enjoy shooters where they are a little bit more realistic, where if you die, you die and you're done for the round, or it's a permanent death for the round. I like that. I think that's a real good test of skill, and for me, that realistic, almost simulation is entertaining to me. On the flip side, I still am entertained by games that are a more cinematic experience. So, I guess it's all a matter of the fun factor. And it's not just video games either, by the way. It's other things as well in life, like, say, museums. Now, you would think that museums would be just straightforward, here's the facts, and this is done as an homage to, people who fought in this war, or people who lived through these certain events. But the reality is, when people design museums and when people put exhibits and everything like that together, they obviously pick the most entertaining portions of those events, the sexiest portions of those wars, and they put those on display. So even there is that contrast of entertainment education, slash what would be an homage or that kind of thing. So it's not just video games that goes through this balance. So I really don't know why McShea is getting so freaking upset about this kind of thing. There's always going to be realistic shooters, and there's always going to be shooters that say they look realistic, but they're actually not. It's like a Michael Bay movie. Might be the movie blockbuster of the summer, but does that mean it was a great movie? No, not always. But that doesn't mean that there's any reason for you to get your underwear up in a bunch. But kind of backtracking a little bit, and I'm gonna kind of round out my thoughts, I guess, as like I said, the way shooters are going right now, I'm finding it harder and harder to recommend people to pay full price for them anymore. Even when they're coming from big pedigree production companies, I'm really finding a hard time saying, yeah, that game's worth $60. Or I truly feel that, like, when I look at these games and I think to myself, okay, I paid $60 for Red Dead Redemption, which I think totally was worth the $60. I'll pay $60 for Skyrim, which I thought it was totally worth it. I pay $60 for RPGs that give me nice, long-lasting experiences, which I think they're worth the $60. And then I look at shooters, and they might only give me like 8 hours worth of entertainment, even though it might be a highly refined entertainment. I might not see the value in that of $60. But that's me personally. I have this sometimes mentality where I try to calculate my dollar to entertainment ratio, which isn't always the right way to view games. Like, for instance, the Dear Esther game. Very short game, but a lot of people found it highly satisfying, but the dollar to gaming ratio is a little bit off on that. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't play the game or you shouldn't buy the game, kind of thing. So I hope you guys all understand that mentality, and I hope you all don't think that I suddenly hate shooters, because I don't. Because there is totally something completely satisfying about playing shooters. You can only do RPGs for so long, you can only do action games for so long, and sometimes it's just really satisfying to pick up a gun and go blow stuff up. Sometimes it's more fun to do it realistically and trying to be as stealthy and conserving as much of your ammo as possible and staying undercover as much as you can. And then there's other times when you just feel like you want to be Max Payne, where you want to jump through the air and shoot two guns at the same time and blow stuff up and shoot grenades out of the air. It's just a matter of what you want. I don't think that there's any reason to get upset about one or the other. And at the same time, I don't think there's any reason to get upset about Call of Duty versus Battlefield or anything like that. So that's that. What are your thoughts, everybody, on shooters? In terms of what I think can be done to make them better, like I said, I think we need to be looking more into the open world settings with shooters. And I think we need to, we need to make them more interactive with your environment and everything like that. Stalker, the original one, perfect example of where shooters should be going. It was a great shooter, had awesome RPG elements, had a great story to it, creepy-ass environment, and all around just a really satisfying experience. I will take one Stalker over 10 Call of Duties any day, but that's my personal choice. That's my personal, preference. But I get it if people are like, yeah, Stalker's too slow, it's too hard, I get shot twice and I'm dead. Give me, one Call of Duty versus 10 Stalkers any day. That's just my personal preference. I've always kind of leaned towards the more realistic, so to speak. I realize I'm the niche audience, but I still see value in the big guns, fast action kind of gameplay. So there you have it, everybody. Thanks for actually the letter, Sean. I really appreciate it. Like I said, I'd love to hear everybody else's 2 cents on it. If anybody has any questions or comments, please feel free to send them to info@elder-geek.com. You can always follow us on Facebook, Twitter, of course here on YouTube, and of course always hit up our main site at eldergeek.com. That's it for me, everybody. I'm gonna go to bed. Have a good night. Talk to you all tomorrow.